this is a big idea election. Now, that was the meme that was being thrown out last night by the interviewers on 60 Minutes, Steve Croft and whoever the other guy was. In any case, they in fact, they were quoting David McCullough. Now, I've never been fond of David McCullough as a historian. Ever since he wrote the book on John Adams and had himself photographed with George Herbert Walker Bush, and it was just so obvious that book came out just in time for the W presidency, because John Adams was the only other president to have his son run for president and win, John Quincy Adams. And, it just, and then in the book, I read the book, and in the book, the big issue of the John Adams presidency was the Alien Sedition Acts, was the fact that he threw in jail, 18 or 20 newspaper publishers, shut down newspapers. He basically, in 1798, turned the United States into a dictatorship. And in fact, Thomas Jefferson, who was his vice president at the time, left town the day that John Adams signed that law. And Jefferson fought him on that and then ran against him in the election of 1800 and beat him. And, this horrible facet of the John Adams presidency that has been a blot, a stain on the American presidency ever since, is dealt with in just a very, very small number of pages in this great big book about, this great big wondrous book about how wonderful John Adams was. And yeah, there were a lot of wonderful things about John Adams, but that was not one of them, and it didn't get you. So I saw the book as a whitewash. But anyhow, so the question that they were asking was, they said, David McCullough, said, and Romney even quoted his John Adams book. All the Republicans love to read it. David McCullough, the famous historian, said that the really important presidents, or the really famous presidents, or the well-known presidents, are the ones who had big ideas. What's your big idea? Right? This is a big idea election. And if it is, then Mitt Romney should lose. Here he was on 60 Minutes last night talking about his big idea and what it is.
The kind of freedom that has brought people here from all over the world. I want people to come here legally, to want to be here. I want the best and brightest to say America's the place of opportunity because of the freedom there to pursue your dreams. So my message is, restore the kind of freedom that allows America to lead the world.
Right. Freedom. That's it. Freedom. At least you can easily fit it on a bumper sticker. You see, Mitt Romney's so-called big idea is the same big idea that's been pushed by every Republican since Reagan.
This belief has been the underlying basis for everything I've tried to do these past 8 years.
The vision of a society where men and women are free to choose, but where government is not as free to override their decisions.
Well, again, Gwen, I do want to thank you and the commission. This is such an honor for me, and we have to fight for our freedoms also, economic and our national security freedoms. It was Ronald Reagan who said that freedom is always just one generation away from extinction.
Freedom, 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 freedom. After hearing it this much, the word starts to lose its meaning. What exactly do these Republicans mean when they talk about freedom? Well, luckily, Governor Goodhair down in Texas, Rick Perry, explained it for us.
As we go forward, America needs to be about freedom. It needs to be about freedom from over-taxation, freedom from over-litigation, freedom from over-regulation.
There you go. That's the key. When Republicans are talking about freedom, they're not talking about freedom like you and I think of it. They're talking about the freedom of billionaires and corporations. Freedom from taxation, like the freedom for Mitt Romney to treat his capital gains income as special and pay a lower tax rate than the rest of us. Or the freedom for a corporation like General Electric to pay no taxes. Or ExxonMobil. They're talking about freedom from regulation, like the freedom for Koch Industries to pollute entire towns or let oil pipes explode now that government regulators have been taken out of the picture. They're talking about freedom from litigation, like the freedom for doctors and hospitals to not get sued when they amputate the wrong leg. They're talking about the freedom for banksters not to get sued after they gamble away your savings or blow up your home's value. The so-called big idea about freedom pushed by Republicans for more than 3 decades and now being pushed by Mitt Romney is very specific, despite how vague it sounds. It means freedom for the wealthy elite to continue getting richer while the rest of us get screwed. That's why over the last 3 decades, ever since these freedom fighters for the rich took power, wealth inequality has exploded and the middle class has come under siege. Wall Street was given freedom to crash our economy and then get a bailout. Big oil was given freedom to destroy the Gulf of Mexico and yet continue to receive billions in subsidies, courtesy of you and me, the taxpayers. And what new freedoms have average Americans received? We're free to pay more money for basic essentials like food, energy, and education. We're free to choke on oil pollution. We're free to go fight in a war that George Bush wants to have to get political capital. If Republicans really believed in freedom, then they would subscribe to the idea of freedom put forward by Franklin Delano Roosevelt when he said, necessitous men are not free men. Necessitous, meaning you don't have the necessities of life. Freedom requires basic essentials to be met. Freedom requires food, a job, a roof over your head, a good education, health care. That was the whole basis of FDR's New Deal, to give freedom to working class Americans. Republicans, on the other hand, want to give freedom to the super rich, to guys like Mitt Romney, which is why Mitt Romney ridiculed half the nation that feels entitled to food. It's clear, if Mitt Romney doesn't think access to food should be a basic freedom, then he doesn't know what the hell freedom means for working people. So while Mitt Romney was busy selling this big idea of freedom for billionaires, President Obama revealed what his big idea was.
What would you like to see happen?
Well,
in your 4 years?
I got to tell you, Steve, I think there's no bigger purpose right now than making sure that if people work hard in this country, they can get ahead. That's the Central American idea. That's how we sent a man to the moon, because there was an economy that worked.
Yeah, there was an economy that worked for everybody. This actually is a big idea. It's a big idea because it's what Roosevelt succeeded in doing 80 years ago with the New Deal, which is create a new contract between working people and the government that we have created. That contract was simple. If you work hard, if you do what you're supposed to do, if you keep your nose clean, then you too can achieve the American dream of a comfortable life. That contract has been shredded terribly during the last 3 decades. The American dream is harder and harder to achieve for working people, while the very wealthy have, plenty of money to achieve the American dream, dozens, hundreds, thousands of times over. President Obama's big idea is to restore this contract. That means making the rich like Mitt Romney pay their fair share again. It means strengthening the social safety net. It means protecting domestic manufacturing with trade protection. And it means recognizing democracy in the workplace with organized labor. Republicans like Mitt Romney think all of those things restrict freedom, but in reality, they only restrict freedom for the billionaire class and the corporations who want the freedom to exploit the rest of us for their profits. So the big question for this election is, do we have freedom for all, real freedom? Freedom to have basic essential needs met so that the American dream is easier to achieve for all working people? Or do we just have freedom for the rich as defined by Reagan and now by Romney? Freedom for oil barons to pollute, banksters to steal, for Paris Hilton and Mitt Romney to avoid paying their fair share in taxes? That's the question. Freedom should not be reserved just for the 1%. Pretty straightforward. A hungry man or woman or child is not a free person. A homeless person is not a free person. A sick person is who does not have the ability to get themselves well or the ability to pay to get themselves well is not a free person. You want freedom? Provide a social safety.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And FDR wasn't the first guy to lay this out, by the way. Teddy Roosevelt, the Republican before him, talked about it. Abraham Lincoln talked about it. Thomas Jefferson talked about it.